This is Happenus. I'm Shawn Hong. Welcome to the show. Today, I'm joined by Kelly Kok. She's the Executive Director of the Jane Goodall Institute Taiwan, which is part of the broader international organization founded by the legendary primatologist, anthropologist, and conservationist Dr. Jane Goodall. Kelly has worked at Jane Goodall Institute Taiwan since 1998. Her primary focus has been growing Dr. Goodall's Roots&Shoots program in Taiwan, empowering individuals with action in environmental education and conservation. She also serves as the Executive Director of the Jane Goodall Sustainability Academy in Taipei, Asia's first experimental school focusing on sustainability and conservation. At the top of our conversation, Kelly shared the genesis of her Sustainability Academy and why learning with children to understand how nature works is more important than ever. We also delve deep into topics of the lost sense of awe and wonder, the feeling of being in the presence of something vast that transcends our understanding of the world. We discussed how we don't need remarkable circumstances to encounter awe or reverence for nature. We can find it every day, often in the humblest places. Perhaps awe, while an ordinary response to the extraordinary, is also an extraordinary response to the ordinary. And what better way there is to be humbled by children's precious authenticity in their eagerness to play, experiment, and explore, the shared joy and freedom of being curious, alive, and not afraid. In the later part of our conversation, we began by discussing the influence of Dr. Goodall's seminal book, In the Shadow of Men. We then delved into her wisdom and tenacity in transforming hope into action through Roots&Shoots, bringing solace and power to many who may be grappling with eco-grief and anxiety towards our planet. On the topic of the future of environmentalism in an increasingly digital era, Kelly shared how reimagining communities and collaborating with other Roots&Shoots chapters around the globe has amplified the collective voices of people, animals, and the environment. This celebration of diversity while united in love, peace, and abundant joy is a testament to the enduring impact of Dr. Goodall's work. On a personal note, I've known Kelly since I was a little boy, and I was honored to represent her and Jane Goodall Institute Taiwan this July to attend the Global Coordinators Meeting in Windsor, UK with Dr. Goodall. It was genuinely a life-changing week, sharing stories, challenges, and meaningful conversations with Roots&Shoots coordinators worldwide. I deeply believe Taiwan has much to offer, and it is always better when we stand together. If any of you in the Roots&Shoots family are listening right now, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I will be forever grateful for the bonds we formed and the time we shared. I hope you all enjoyed this conversation as much as I do. Kelly, in her soft-spoken way, offers clarity, a bridge that we know within ourselves but can't always communicate with others. Like a soul interpreter who is young at heart, she embodies Dr. Goodall's values and has inspired me to contribute in my own way to make this a better world. Now, I'm grateful to present her to you today. This is Kelly Kok. Hi, Kelly. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Shawn.
Let's dive straight into the question, shall we?
Sure.
Yeah, so in August of 2021, the Jane Goodall Sustainability Academy in Taipei was announced, and it is Asia's first experimental elementary school focusing on conservation and sustainability, educating students on how nature works and helping them develop deep connections with nature through hands-on learning. And as the Executive Director of the Jane Goodall Institute in Taiwan, your role is crucial in its establishment. In previous interviews, you've mentioned that the motto of the school, one of them is conservation is not an option, it's a given. Could you elaborate on that and share with us how the Academy embodies what you called a big commitment for Dr. Jane Goodall?
So I'm so happy that we were able to spend time to talk about this, because you know that the Jane Goodall Institute in Taiwan, we have had this institute I've been running it for a quarter of a century. It's a long time. And we've been working with schools around the island working with schools, at all levels to try to bring awareness of conservation and the importance of nature to children, to young children. So it just struck us that maybe we're not taking one step further. We're not showing the kids that how this could happen in a more elaborate way, in a more comprehensive way. So we go and we give workshops to these children, and they have to be supported by their teachers and the parents to develop this love for nature. So we thought to ourselves, maybe we could play the roles of the educators and build a community of parents and families who are also interested in this idea. So we just took the leap and we said, okay, let's have a school. Let's have this experimental school that helps children and build a community so that we can actually put our principles into practice. Right? For the longest time, Jane has said that it's so important for young children to connect with nature from a very young age, that they will carry this within themselves. And when they grow up, whatever profession they might be in, they would still be connected to nature. And we have to start young. So that's how we started this, and we think this is a truly important and relevant task, especially when so many people are saying that it's irrelevant.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge leap of faith. And do you still recall the first day that the academy opened and what feelings you experienced when walking through the gates? Just 3 years into the establishment, how has that feeling transformed?
Actually, I'm very much a very live in the moment kind of person. So I don't really recall that first day. I'm sure we were so nervous, the teachers and we were so nervous, welcoming the first batch of children in. But I don't remember what happened today when I walked into the school and the children ran to me saying, "Hey, Kelly, look what I found. Hey, you're here." And they look so happy. They look so vibrant. And their eyes are sparkling because they know today's Thursday. So tomorrow they are going to the beach and they are going to explore the shore and they're going to learn to, some safety measures so that they can explore the ocean safely. So they're so excited. And this is something that we built into the school curriculum. So every Friday we have a field trip. That is 35 field trips in a school year. So every Friday we venture out, we bring the kids out, and they're always in nature. I think we have been nurturing for the past 3 years kids who are really alive and vibrant, and they're always happy to come to school.
Yeah, I remember seeing them last time at a documentary screening, and they are so vibrant and so welcoming,
Yes.
open arms.
And they're always so curious.
I'm trying so hard to imagine the time and effort you and your team put into the operation of an international organization like Jane Goodall Institute in Taiwan. In your experience, what are some common crossroads you have to face throughout the years?
So I think if you speak to any NGOs, I think the first challenge we all have, is the fact that we do have to fundraise ourselves. We do have to do a lot of fundraising. We have to work with different partners. And sometimes we have to be very careful. I think that we remember, we keep faith to what our values are, and that we actually have trust in the future, that no matter what happens, even if we do not have the funds, there's still other ways to do things to achieve our mission without funding.
So it's like holding on to the intention that you set on.
I know, but that's such a difficult thing to do. When you sit down and you thought, oh, we might not have funds in 2 months' time. And you think, should we do this? Should we carry on? Of course you carry on, right? There's no way we're going to give this up. And I think this conviction, this commitment and conviction of our teams is very strong. Mm-hmm.
Is there something that you tell yourself when the doubt creeps in, or something that you do, like a ritual that helps you stay grounded?
I would love to tell you that I meditate every day, but I don't. So how do we hang on to this faith? I think it is because we have a strong team, that we enjoy working with each other. And we're happy to see each other when we, show up for each other. And we also have a great network of people across the globe. We have family across the Jane Goodall Institutes around the world whom we work closely with. And of course, we always remember that Dr. Jane is at the forefront, working hard as well. And I think that gives us a lot of strength to move forward.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how do you see Taiwan as a location to foster environmental education? And how is Taiwan different in its approach to eco-literacy among the population based on your experience?
A lot of people have no idea that Taiwan has actually made vast advancement in regards to environmental education. So it was maybe 30 years ago, there was a wave of conservation ideals and awareness where people started to be very engaged in environmental education, and we started early. So if you look across Asia, Taiwan has really moved forward, right? And then in recent years, in the last 10 years, because the education section has opened up, the idea that we should promote experimental schools. So that has given us another, impetus to move forward. Let's combine environmental education with experimental education. And put two things together. And we have this amazing academy called the Jane Goodall Sustainability Academy.
Yeah. Would you say that the progress that you mentioned earlier is on the national level or also equally as strong on the community and local levels?
It is. It's been going strong, which is why you can see that young people nowadays are actually very, very concerned about the environment.
Yeah.
It's the foundation that has built over the years. You might not think that, maybe a lot of people are not so concerned, but it's not true. We've met a lot of young people who are really concerned about the environment, who are very concerned about the political situation, who are also very concerned with what we are doing to nature and how we should try to protect nature as we proceed.
There's a fascinating body of research in recent years that highlights the significant benefits for children engaging in risky play or explore freely to foster their curiosity. And these benefits include experiencing intense exhilaration, joy, and mastering new challenges and develop a realistic understanding of their own capabilities and risk. And what you said earlier about the field trip, I would think that it's a way of the academy to foster such abilities in your students.
One of the exhilarating part of childhood, or really of life, is to experience something awesome, right? Something that fills you with awe. And like recently, everyone has been talking about the Northern Lights. So in London, they can see the Northern Lights, and everyone stood in awe of it. Right?
It's a spectacle.
It's a spectacle that makes you stop and wonder.
Yes.
And this sense of awe is very important to us in our mental health. It brings us a different perspective. It takes you out of the ordinary from the everyday life. And young children at primary school stage, elementary school stage, feel these all the time. And this sense of awe comes from really, once the moment they step into nature, they can see it. So we've actually filled them with awe. And this sense of awe is really quite life-changing.
And how do you balance when taking children out in the field or engage in activities in nature? How do you balance the need for safety with the benefits of allowing children to take risks and learn from them in the context of nature and environmental education?
Well, so the same things apply, that you have to have an understanding of your surrounding. You always have to keep your boundaries. You have to be aware of what's happening. And this is done with the help of our teachers, who actually are alongside them along the way and giving them a very active learning environment so that they know what to expect and they know how to react when things arise. Right?
Yeah, can you share with me some moments that you find, some lessons, I guess, that you learn from children when you see them? What are some of the lessons more adults should probably adopt? What is lost during this process as we grow into adulthood?
So many things we take for granted. For example, if you were walking along the street in busy Taipei, you wouldn't notice anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you would notice cars and pedestrians, and you'd be thinking about the lunch you're going to, or something on your mind, you're thinking about your work. But with young children, they are thinking of what they can see. And for the kids in our school, they're always looking for insects, looking for birds, butterflies, something that moves, and that will catch their attention. So they're always tapping into nature, which in turn gives them energy. So I was just washing my hands at the sink, and some kid will come up to me and say, look, Kelly, that's the bird there just right in front of us. I saw one yesterday. And this is, to me, it's a precious conversation. Because I don't think kids in Taipei would say that. But our kids do that all the time, right? Yeah. So, and then we also have kids who, the moment they know about the ocean and the kind of fish that live in the ocean, and they become very concerned about what we as the human community are doing to the ocean or how we're polluting it. And they become very, very conscious about littering, about not using too much plastic. It actually informs their own way of life. So we have young children who feel very strongly about their desire to protect the ocean. So that manifests in their daily lives. And they will be lecturing their parents about it. Right? The grown-ups always have this idea, I know it's important, but, this is not the first thing on our minds now. We have other fish to fry. We have other or more pressing issues. But for the kids, this is the most important thing. Right?
There's this kind of precious authenticity to them. And it just reminds me that when you lend a camera to children and ask them to take pictures around, when you see the pictures, it's often very different of how an adult will see the world.
Exactly.
It's their own perspective. It's almost like we're looking at different
Like I was telling you, they keep us so grounded. Right? What's important in life? Right? What's important? A moment in nature. Right? A bird flying by, noticing a butterfly, right? Watching a flower blooming. These are things that really connect us to nature, and they are the ones who can stop and take it in. We as grown-ups, we don't take the time anymore. And there's so much we can learn from them.
Yeah. That's a really good point, because I always feel like there's something lost. And at the end of our life, many people try to find that in the end.
And we feel so lonely and empty. And we fill ourselves with our days with work or entertainment or all kinds of things. But we never get that content that we feel so much when we were kids, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think more people would find a lot of joy in life if they're more connected to their surroundings that way.
Even if you find sadness in nature, I think that's beautiful too.
Yeah. You can't only have one without the other.
Yeah. I think nature is all embracing. And if you were to spend a moment in nature, you don't necessarily have to feel joy. You can feel an immense sadness too. And I think that's fine too.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I love nature documentaries so much. You see animals on films, it's glorious how they just live their life and we share the same planet. But at the same time, there's a huge wave of melancholy when you watch them on screen, because just seeing how much they struggle because of the habitat loss and their own species being killed off and facing extinction.
Yeah, I think we've been very careless about this. Yeah. I think we've been pushing everything aside, taking whatever we need, not being careful enough, not being sensitive to other living things' needs. We kind of have a winner takes all.
Yeah, like attitude. A dominant perspective.
We are very dominant. Yeah. We are a dominant species. That's why I think our academy plays a role. It might not be very big, but it will influence quite a few families.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to talk more about Dr. Jane Goodall. And I know that we both share a profound inspiration from Dr. Jane Goodall's life work. And I think you and I can both agree that even at the age of 90, she is still a phenomenal storyteller.
Yes, she is.
And one of my favorite books of hers is the monumental classic, In the Shadow of Men.
Yes.
That's first published.
My favorite too.
Yeah, it's first published in 1971. And for those who are familiar, the book is Dr. Goodall's documentation of her scientific adventures in the wilderness of Tanzania, where she studied chimpanzees. And the book has taught people from around the world, me included, to appreciate the beauty of life and all living beings. And I was so extremely lucky to have my beloved copy signed by Dr. Goodall herself. Yeah. And I wonder, in what ways has Dr. Goodall's wisdom and philosophy changed you over the years, and how have her life stories aligned with what you want to offer to the world?
So I don't think my life would have been like what it is now if it weren't for Jane. So I read her book too, The Shadow of Man, and that's what introduced me to her. I read the book and I was thinking, so it opened doors for me. It opened a different perspective. It shed light on, oh, chimpanzees have their own lives too, and they have their own feelings, they have their own emotions, they have the communities, they have their bonds and their ties with each other, something that was never apparent to me. I have no idea. And that opened the door to me, and I started to see things differently. And I really wish that I could work with her or for her or under her anyway. So then I got the opportunity to work with the Jane Goodall Institute in Taiwan. And over the years, I've worked alongside her, and also we've built a team to work together with her to promote her ideas. And I think she really has influenced our team very much, in the sense that she's always focused on her work. She really never gives up, but she's always so kind and willing to lend a sympathetic ear. She will always listen. She's a firm believer in the fact that we should be protecting the world, the natural world, and not harming animals. But she does it in such a persuasive and gentle way that I understand you and I respect your stance, but listen to me. This is what I have to say.
Yeah, there's a strength and a firmness in her advocacy and in her kindness.
Yes. And the strength is so gentle, right? So in Chinese, you know what we say, that the softness and the gentleness creates great impact. Right?
Yeah, the gentleness, I think it's something we can all explore, finding peace and gentleness and view that as a power.
And the gentleness is what that sustains. If you're always banging your heads on rocks, on the concept that people will not give up, if you're always fighting, you can't go on for long. You just break, or you give up, you become very skeptical, and you say, the world's not going to change, I'm going to give up. But if you're gentle, you keep trying, you keep nudging, and you keep prodding, and you think about different ways, very much like when we work with children, right? We don't discipline them in a very harsh tone. So we try this way, maybe we can do this to them, maybe we can do this with them, another thing. So we try all kinds of strategies. And this softness in our approach, in Jane's approach, is something I think a truly valuable lesson to me. I'm always trying to be like her when I deal with people and deal with crisis or any kind of challenges, is to think of different ways to go around it, go through it, go over it, go under it. And if you're very harsh and very hard, can't do it.
The healing part only comes when the fight dies down.
Yeah.
It's when people can settle down and let the dust flow gently underground. We can really see clear the water,
That's
muddy
why
water.
Jane never likes it when we say, oh, let's fight poverty, let's fight poachers, let's fight ignorance. She says the word fight is itself not suitable. We should be working with people to understand and then try to change things together, find ways to change things together.
Sometimes that strength comes from within. It's something arises with you after being inspired by someone or their actions or their words. I think Dr. Goodall's, it's what I really would call an icon. And even at 90 years old, she still relentlessly fight gently in her own way.
She said, people think I'm so soft-spoken and so gentle. They think they can walk all over me, but I never give up. That's what she said.
Yeah. That's why when she talked, the room quiets down and listens.
Exactly, because she's so strong in her conviction.
You can still feel the aliveness in her when she talked, even though that's a topic that she's been talking throughout almost her entire life.
Yes.
There's still a passion and a vigorous pursuit in conveying her message to the world.
And she always says that her work with young children, Roots&Shoots, gives her hope and gives her strength. So wherever she goes, if she meets young people and young children talking to her about the projects, the animals they're trying to save, the people that are trying to help, the trees they're planting, it always gives her energy. And I can totally understand.
After the break, more from Kelly Kok.
Speaking of the aliveness, is there anything in particular that makes you feel the most alive when you engage in actions, no matter big or small, to bridge the gaps between people's knowledge and attitude towards nature?
When they come to our events, or when they've listened to us talk, or they've been to one of our workshops, for example, if we work with children, and we will ask them to write something back in return to see what they've learned and also to get their feedback. Many of them would always say that I now have the conviction and the commitment to want to make the world a better place. I now know that we should care about animals and that animals have feelings. Or sometimes they say, we are so inspired, I'm so inspired by Jane and I want to be like her. Or they say, I'm so inspired by what the other young children are doing. And if they can do it, we can do it too. So it is this faith in themselves, this starting to want to do something, this drive to want to change things. And that's something I always love to see.
That's beautiful. And I think the changing of attitudes and mindsets, it's difficult for a reason, but also it's so fundamentally important.
Yeah. It is seeing them, they were sitting there listening, and then suddenly you see them sit up. And you can see them thinking, but maybe I can do something. And by the time they leave, they're thinking already, when I go home, this is what I'm going to do. And this drive to do something, I think is important. This is what Roots and Shoots is about. It's about action, right? Taking action to make the world a better place.
Yeah. And I think the book, In the Shadow of Men, one thing that I've changed my perception about humans and chimpanzee is that although we humans like to flatter ourselves with notions of our own uniqueness, yet when we acquaint ourselves with the ape's behavior, it's easy to recognize that we are not so different from our close relatives after all.
When you read about them, they are just like us, or we are just like them.
When hosting events or sharing Dr. Goodall's work through your organization, what does the role of community play in organizing such events to help convey these messages further?
I think with the advent of social media, the idea of a community is more of an online community now. So in the past, it's more of a physical thing where you have people come together, always doing projects together. But now it has shifted very much to an online community where you have a huge number of followers who will maybe follow your posts, your call for petitions, coming together for an event, things like that. So it's very much an online community. I feel that the trend might move back to physical communities.
In what way?
In that people might want to have more real connections, to be offline, to come together. And that's why you see many people are actually using the online platform to say, hey, we're doing a beach cleanup this weekend. Let's go. Come join us. And then you have strangers showing up.
And they connect through that activity.
Right?
And that's how bonds were formed.
Yeah. I think that's the trend to go. I think that's the trend it will take. That the community is no longer, when we talk about communities, it's no longer about a village in a certain place. It's going to be, people will come from everywhere to take part in something meaningful, to create impact. They will come from anywhere.
Certainly, social media is a double-edged sword. There's benefit in leveraging such platforms to help us to feel less alone when we're taking actions in our own communities. And one mindset that I find particularly useful for actions is to think globally, but to act locally as a way to approach this.
Yes, something just struck me just now. So social media is like a noisy library. Why do I say that? It's like, okay, when I was a kid, I loved the libraries. So I would spend so much time in the library. So when you sit down and you pull down a book from the shelf, you're actually conversing with this person who wrote this. You're actually having a conversation with the person who wrote this, but it's very quiet. Everything is written down in the pages. But now social media is a very noisy library. Everyone is there talking, and you can converse with anyone you like. And that's why I think it's different, but the basic idea is still the same. It's still an exchange of ideas and two-way, instead of being one way in the quiet library.
Yeah.
But now it's a noisy library. It's two-way.
Yeah, I think fundamentally people want to...
They want to connect.
And connect. Yes, but just the amount of information has become noise. In a way,
that's why I call it a noisy library.
Yeah, all the voices are drowned into the sea of opinions. It's hard to discern who and what to listen to in those networks.
Yeah, and then people will feel the urge to be grounded. That's why then they will have a physical event where everyone comes together to do something. I think it's so important to do something with your hands. Yeah, apart from beach cleanups, it could be doing something together.
If people do things offline and create memories in the real world instead of the virtual world, it's something that they sort of train their brain to remember instead of just posting something to show off, and that's easily being forgotten.
That's why having a tangible school, having a tangible site where children come to every day. And we are also thinking of working with our community where our school is based to create gardens, wildlife gardens, habitats for wildlife, things that children can work together. And then even eventually we'll invite people from the communities and people from outside the communities to come and be part of this movement.
Yeah, and because there's so much to learn from them.
Every time we talk to the kids, we're going to build this garden so that all the insects will come. They would immediately roll up their sleeves and say, when do we do this? Can we do this right now? And no, you have to wait 2 weeks. We'll come back in 2 weeks' time. And they'll be so disappointed because they can't do it now.
It's like they are eager to create and design a safe space for them to explore and to let their imagination roam free. In that space, they can feel that they are really in touch with themselves and other and their surroundings.
They can tap their own drive so easily, so quickly. They get very enamored of this vision very quickly, and they can immediately draw on their strength so quickly. They have access. They have easy, quick, fast access, not like us. Because we have so many reservations. We keep thinking, maybe it's not going to succeed. Maybe it's a bad idea. Maybe we can't do this. You know.
Yeah, sometimes we are all our own worst judges, and there's emotions and fears that hold us back to take action, even though we know that action will make us and the community better.
Yeah, but there's so many roadblocks and so many challenges ahead, and if you, maybe I'll just watch Netflix for a bit.
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked the question, because that's our next thing to do, building communities. But for the definition of a community, what is the definition of the community? I think we have to redefine it, because with the help of social media, we can now reach people from everywhere. So that the identity of the community will be different from a traditional community.
And how does the Roots&Shoots program in Taiwan collaborate with other Roots&Shoots programs around the world?
Right. So we do have colleagues across the world, and we work most closely with our colleagues from the Asia-Pacific region. So every year we have a Roots&Shoots Youth Summit, where the young people from all these countries, different countries, come together and think of new projects or share existing projects and inspire each other. So it's like a platform where they come together and share ideas. We're working with JGI Nepal, JGI India, JGI Hong Kong, JGI China, JGI in Singapore, Malaysia, South Korea. So it's really exciting. Australia as well.
What stood out to you about the Asian Pacific region in comparison to other regions like, say, Europe or the Americas?
We're seeing that the most populated countries are all in this region. I can only say the Asia Pacific is so diverse. So we come together not because of shared heritage or shared culture, but because of the same time zone, right?
Yeah.
Geographically speaking, we're also much closer. And that's the beauty of it. We're so close, but so different, hugely diverse. If I sat down with Shweta, who runs the Indian office, I mean, she has such a different background. Right? She eats differently, she thinks differently, she speaks differently, but then we have the same passion. We both know what Roots&Shoots is about, and we know what we want to do to work together. So we're currently working together across the region to build a program called the Oceans Are Us program, which is to build awareness of ocean protection across the region. But that's also very exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting.
Yeah, it's called Oceans Are Us. I see a lot of young people or communities will be so interested in this. A lot of people are doing that, but we have the advantage of having networks across the region and then we can work together. And I think the most important thing is that we inspire each other and we give each other support. So
yeah, there's a sense of finding unity in the diversity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we become family and friends. And I think that's important. That's why I enjoy working in the Jane Goodall family.
I want to discuss more about the future of environmentalism, because as I learned more about your work in environmental education, I kept coming back to a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said, "The lover of nature is he whose inward and outward senses are still truly adjusted to each other." And I'm thinking, as new generations raised by technologies enter adulthood, they become accustomed to new mythologies of technologies that suggest nature doesn't matter anymore. And we start to hear conversations about post-human or post-biological eras in which people are optimally enhanced by technology and nature isn't part of the vision anymore. And at this particular time in our collective history, when environmentalism has been struggling on a national level across the globe at least, do you think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves? Have we become ill-adjusted to our senses due to this great alienation from nature?
Well, I think it's safe to say that the humankind is not going to stop for nature. We are going to go head on and just develop this advancement. This is just going to happen with AI. Everything is just going to move so fast forward. And I don't think there's a way that we can stop and say, slow down for nature. And because of that, it is so important for us in our capacity to really work hard to engage young children, to plant seeds in their hearts and minds that we are part of nature. And that comes from having them engage in nature, play in nature, be in touch with real water, real stones, real grass, real flowers, real animals, to be in nature when they are young, so that when they grow up into that world, they still have that connection, and then it's up to them to make the difference. So I think it's our job to do that, and we can't stop it.
And I often wonder what the world would look like if our daily lives were as connected to nature as they are to technology. What a beautiful world that would be. Because today, media and movies like Blade Runner, Mad Max often portray the future as post-apocalyptic dystopias filled with despair and stripped of nature. And how can teaching eco-literacy to children from a young age help repaint this narrative and contribute to a movement that goes beyond traditional definitions of environmentalism and sustainability, one that is, as Dr. Jane Goodall would said, predicated on hope?
Well, I think apart from showing them, like I've been saying, connecting them to nature, having them spend some time in nature, understanding it, one of the mission of our academy is actually to teach them about nature, to have children learn about nature, to learn about the ecosystems and how ecosystems work. And through learning about ecosystems, to also learn about system thinking, to understand that the whole thing, that this whole world we live in is actually a system.
Yeah, the whole is more than the sum of its parts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that will frame their perspective. Because if you don't have that perspective, if you don't think in a system thinking way, you don't see the whole picture. You only see your own small role. You throw one piece of garbage, you use one piece of plastic, and you think it doesn't matter, it's just me. Right? But if you can think in a wholesome way, you know each one of your action actually affects the whole picture. So what we're trying to do is to work alongside children, learn with them about system thinking. Because I think a lot of adults, even I myself, do not have that kind of mentality as well.
We're not educated that way of thinking holistically and understanding the whole big picture.
We were never taught that. Only we are short-sighted. It's a human attribute. We are always short-sighted. We cannot see beyond 10 years from now, right? And we always want to have immediate results. But we can learn about this, and then we can learn with the children about this, and I think it will help. And nature offers so many examples of system thinking.
Through the lens of ecology, it really emphasizes how important the web of life is, connected.
Yeah.
And as we're coming to the end, one of the major events of the Roots and Shoots program is the animal parade. Yeah, and where hundreds of children and their parents take to the streets and dress as animals and voicing out on behalf of other species. And I'm glad that we both participated in several of them. Yeah, and 3 decades after the genesis of Roots and Shoots in 1990, you received a Lifetime Achievement Award for your dedication.
Right.
And in your acceptance speech, you said, and I quote, "These young people who share the conservation messages through artwork and performances are young people who have definitely grown up with a different set of values, and they know through first-hand experiences that their actions are important. Because they always have fun along the way, they are always keen to do more."
Did I say that?
Yeah. And I think passing down wisdom and values to the younger generation is one of the most precious things in the world. I wonder where that speech lands with you today as we sit here, and how does it feel knowing that community participation and collective actions are making a difference in an individual's mind?
Sounds like a stranger who speaks that. But when you were reading that, these images of the animal parade came back to me. So you know that the animal parade has always been a great, huge event here in Taiwan for us, for the Jane Goodall office here in Taiwan. So this is an idea that we have, like, let's work with the children. Let's get them excited about all these different species of animals that populate the world. Let's get them to dress up as them. Let's get them to learn more about these different species. And then together we will go into the streets and have a parade and show everyone how colorful and how diversified the natural world is. And let's be an animal. And let's have fun, and let's show them, and let's change people by being happy. Let's not be this sad conservationists who are crying over the loss of species. Let's celebrate.
There's fun.
There's fun in that celebration. That's why we always have great fun doing that.
Yeah.
It's really one of our signature projects.
Yeah, and I think children with experience,
they always remember it.
Yeah, they always remember it, coming together with people and seeing adults being children again in some way.
Yeah.
That's really inspiring.
Yeah, right? And the grandmas dressed up as butterflies, and then the kids so proud in their lion costumes and all this. Sometimes they are bears, moon bears.
Yeah. And this might sound silly, but I think if we were talking about climate crisis and biodiversity loss, in our mind we have to invite the elephants, the leopards, the algae, the lemon tree, the bees to the table and be part of the conversation. So I think that's why the parade and this activity is so meaningful.
Yes, and I think it sheds a light on this natural world that we always only think of as like in zoos or in picture books or on National Geographic video clips. But I think it's so important to speak up for them, to celebrate that diversity.
To celebrate, yes, and have fun. And as our conversation is coming close to the end, Kelly, what upcoming projects, you mentioned several earlier, but what upcoming projects or goals are you excited about? If we were to have a conversation like this in a different setting 1 year later, what would we be celebrating?
Well, I'm hoping that if we meet again 1 or 2 years later, I will be sharing with you about news of how our Asia Pacific team has grown and how our projects across the region, how we've managed to create a platform for young people in these different countries. They've come together and forged an identity together, a community that will come together no matter what to make a difference.
That's beautiful. Just hearing you speaking with so much passion reminds me of the quote from Dr. Goodall about you can do anything when
you set your mind to it.
Just set your mind to it, and if your heart is still young, you can achieve that.
Yes. Yeah.
I think you're an embodiment of her
Thank you.
words.
It's like, so Jane, so with people have always asked Jane, like, so the Roots and Shoots is for children, for the young only? And she says, for the young at heart. I think that's an important distinction.
That includes everyone who deliberately choose to be young.
And I think that's joyful. That's a good way to live a life.
That is.
We might not get everything we want, but we can do what we want to do.
Yeah. And to spread joy but not suffering is such a beautiful thing.
And to inspire people with our work, I think that's a fun thing to do. And I really enjoy doing that.
Yeah. And in closing, I want to share something.
Oh, that's you.
Yeah.
That's you with Mr. H.
Yeah, so it's a photo of me 14 years ago at the animal parade and holding Mr. H, Dr. Goodall's mascot. Yeah, and I believe that it's the embodiment of the indomitable human spirit. And to me, this picture has still holds dearly in my heart. Still remember that day vividly. Yeah. Kelly, this is such an enjoyable and enriching conversations. And thank you for your dedication to realizing Dr. Goodall's vision of the world and bringing people together for something meaningful. And I wish you all the best in all your endeavors. And hopefully we'll be joining in an animal parade in the near future.
Yes, thank you, Shawn. It's been such a delightful conversation. Thank you for letting me talk so much.
And that's the show. If you enjoy this conversation, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HappenusPod and share the episode with a friend online or offline. Whatever you do, all of it really does help me to continue making this podcast. If you want to go above and beyond, be sure to leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also listen to my previous conversation with changemaker and founder of Utopia, Melody Winson, on those podcast platforms. For a recap of all the episodes each month, subscribe to the Happenus newsletter at happenuspod.com. I want to give a special thanks to Kay Lam for her original portrait as the episode's cover art, and my guest and dear friend, Kelly Kok. To support and learn more about Kelly's work at the Jane Goodall Sustainability Academy and Jane Goodall Institute Taiwan's upcoming initiatives with other collaborators, please check out the show notes at happenuspod.com. I'm Shawn Hong. Thank you for listening to Happenus. I'll see you soon with another episode. Until then, stay safe and so long.